1-0.
Will you do it? Will be forthcoming. Will you do it in a formal letter where it'll be?
No, it'll actually be a press conference in my home court. I'm going to actually set up tables in there.
Okay.
Very much like LeBron making his decision on his old high school basketball court, I will be in the Amerifit show court.
1-0.
Score here is 1-0.
With my wife holding our handheld camera on record.
Now, are you going to?
Well, if you want to know the truth, I'm going to change my phone number, my email address, burn all my gloves, and never, ever play again or go to a tournament.
Well, this is now, if you can film that, if you can film all of that happening, I might actually tune in.
Yeah.
I called the ball short. They both agree.
And you actually want me to film me change my phone number? Because that's kind of a tedious process. You know, you have to call up Sprint.
No, I want to see that too.
Sometimes you even have to go into the store. You have to wait in line. You want to watch all that?
Yes, I do. I want to see.
Now, the email address I could do pretty quickly.
1-1.
Score here at 1. Interesting, though, what I like at the press conference is instead of fielding questions, you just ask your wife or your baby and say to everybody, I have to go. It's time to change a diaper. And then you just walk out.
2-1.
You heard that score there, 2-1. Andy Nett's got a tremendous serve down the right, but he'll go to the left and try to flatten a ball out to the left.
You know, Dave, you saw Paul Brady today able to sort of just cruise into the semifinals. Wasn't pushed all that hard today, but Luis Moreno will not have that luxury playing the number 7 seed Andy Nett. Luis will have to push himself if he hopes to advance here. And certainly, Dave, Luis is the big favorite, but I would not be surprised to see Andy Nett advance here.
3-1. Out.
Andy had an opportunity there, but Luis keeps the rally alive and
1-3.
Hops the ball away from Andy, now serving at 1-3.
Point.
That's the Luis Moreno power right there.
Well, Dave, a lot of those drives that are about 2 feet high that normally you would have to scoop come off the back wall with this ball. And we'll see if Andy makes the adjustment because, you know, Dave, you're used to being at the restraining line getting a ball that bounces up around your knee or a little bit lower and you have to play it off the bounce. But with this ball, you actually can play it off the back wall as the ball really carries.
Point. 4-2.
You heard the score there, 4-2. I'm not surprised by this. It's just later in the match when you really find out which one of these players is going to go on to the next round. Andy Nett's really not been able to prove later on in the match against a marquee player that he can actually close out a match. He's been able to go to tiebreakers, but it's that next step, Dave, that Andy has to get past in order to be considered one of the game's elites.
Well, I think it's all a process, Dave. When he first came out onto the tour in 2009, he was losing 21-2, 21-2 to guys like Luis Moreno. Then he started scoring in double figures. Last year, actually,
6-2.
Lost a couple 21-20 games to Sean Lenning and Luis Moreno, and then took Luis Moreno to a tiebreaker. So he's climbing that ladder, Dave, going from scoring 2 to 10 to 20 to tiebreakers. And I think it's just a matter of time before he actually knocks the door down, climbs to the top of the ladder, and knocks off one of these top guys.
2-6.
But there's a big difference between being up 6-2 early and closing out a first game against a marquee player like a Luis Moreno. You saw earlier you're up in the second game against Charlie Shanks 5-0, and it looked like you could do pretty much no wrong. Just one little tiny mistake, and Charlie comes in and gets momentum, goes up 9-5. Really instantly, he was, you know, a 9-run changeover there. So you have to get up with these leads, and then you have to maintain them. You can't make mistakes.
It seems like when you're the underdog, you can't afford to make any errors. But when you're the favorite, you can make literally dozens of errors and yet still be in contention.
You see that get from Luis Moreno? This can be a huge setup for Andy Nett, who's pinned against the left wall, goes down low,
Point.
and gets a point here. Now it's 7-2, and you see Andy and Luis talking. They've become best of friends, probably unlikely best of friends, just because it just sort of
serves 2.
popped out of the blue.
Andy looks really strong right now. Forces an error from
Timeout.
Luis there.
Force
Now
8 serving 2.
it's uncharacteristic, Dave, not only to see Luis Moreno trailing 8-2 in a game, but also to take a timeout. Luis generally, Dave, is pushing the envelope, and he's usually leading, so he doesn't really take timeouts because he's very rarely tired. But right now, Dave, he's built a huge deficit. He's looked a little bit flat, and Andy has looked really good. The difference, Dave, between Luis losing in the finals and winning the doubles last week at the World Championships, and Andy losing early and winning the doubles, is Andy's coming in here with a lot of energy and a lot of confidence. Luis is coming in here very flat. He's tired. He had a very difficult week last week. And I don't know if Luis will be able to summon the amount of adrenaline needed here in this event, Dave, to not only win this match, but win 2 more. Remember, Dave, Luis has never won a major singles title. He's only been to the finals of 1 major, and that was at the Worlds last week. He's never been to the finals of the US Open. He's never been to the finals of the USHA 4-Wall Nationals.
That's
Right.
true. He did win a couple
8
pro
serves
stops
2.
early in his career. He also had a couple big wins, but no major wins under his belt.
Well, Dave, for those that follow tennis, he's won some 1,000 events, but he's never won a slam.
Not out.
And those are the little mistakes right there that if you start calculating them up, I'm not saying it's a
2 serves
mistake, but
8.
Andy Nett going for the bottom board with Luis in front of him, skips it in, and now Luis is serving. But a beautiful left-hand fadeaway.
There's not many guys in the sport that can hit an off-balance, fadeaway, offhand kill
8
right
serves
in
2.
front of an opponent that can pick up literally everything. But Andy Nett has that kind of talent.
He's got a long body. He's a tall guy, and sometimes the working parts, in order to get into that low hitting motion, off balance to him is how like that, where he goes straight underhand. You know, being tall like that, in order to bend down and let the ball be only 3 or 4 inches off the
9
ground,
serves 2.
you have to get creative because you can't just bend your knees and get down there every single time. So Andy's found a way of being off balanced in order to get that ball low, and he's flattened out his hand as well. Andy looks like he's one of the best players in the world right here.
Well, Andy should have won this rally twice. Now Luis is in control. We'll see if
Side out.
this can be a momentum changer. But right now it's been all Minnesota
2
Dreamboat.
serves 9.
The winner of this will face Charlie Shanks tomorrow in the morning semifinals.
Point.
Dave, I know you've won a lot of doubles titles. What is it like to go against a doubles partner and
3
also a
serves
guy
9.
that, I'm not sure you've ever had a friend, but a guy that hypothetically was also your friend in a tournament? I mean, is that awkward?
See, I think it is, but it is awkward.
4 serves 9.
You want to go in there and just attack,
Short.
and there's always something there between you and one of your best friends, and you don't want to do it, you know, unless, I think for Andy, he's trying to prove to everybody that he is an elite player, so
Second
maybe it
serve.
might not be that difficult. I know that when I went and faced John Bike for the first time, really one of my best friends, it's difficult because I almost don't want to beat him because he has a legacy where he would never lose to a guy like me. So then in the back of my mind, I'm almost willing against myself. And then later in my life, when I played John, I actually wanted to try to beat him because you know, it's a lot of mental warfare. This game is so mental, Dave, as you know. I said to a player who was an older guy that we were kind of mentoring down at the club, he killed a ball perfect with his right hand. I said, that
5
felt so
serves
good,
9.
didn't it? And he said, yeah. And I go, just do it every time. Make sure the ball's in that same spot. That's what Paul Brady does. But it's not that easy, you know, because you've got certain people in the stands that are watching you, and you want to live up
9
to their
serves 5.
expectations. You've got cameras on you. You've got people back home. Your moms spend money to watch you play, or, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's on your mind. You have to try to find a way to minimize all of that, put it
Second
all
serve.
down, and try to elevate your role and what your whole purpose is. That's why guys like Dave Chapman and Paul Brady, you know,
Set out.
more so in Dave Chapman of being a big game player, you have to respect him more because of what he's able to do with his mind.
5 serves 9.
And you see Luis Moreno now making a nice comeback here at 5-9.
Well, Andy hit a terrible second serve. It was just a fat setup, and it looked like he tried to hit that exact serve, and Luis rolled it out for the side out.
Andy's really in the way of Luis here, shoveling a lot of Luis's passes. You have to realize Andy, who spends a lot of time on the floor, Dave, off balance, falling backwards, that's just a modified version. There was a bad bounce.
Hold it.
But Andy Nett, who you see a lot of the time falling down, the only way a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", that can play at this level to get a ball that's low on the ground, you have to actually literally fall down to get that ball to be low. You can't bend your knees every single time. It's just so much that a tall guy doesn't have the quickness of being able to bend down and squat as fast as a small guy who can get down there really quick. You just have more room to cover, and that ball's traveling so fast. Andy has found a way to fall backwards and to get that ball down really low, a couple inches off the ground, in order to scoop it. A lot of times that leads to him falling down and getting back up.
5 serves 9.
See how Andy had to bend his knees, and then
Point.
Dave, as he tried to get up, he kind of stumbled getting back up again. That's where these tall guys like Andy and Sean Lenning have learned to modify their
serves 9.
swings, learn how to kill balls from their waist.
Short. Second serve. Over.
Andy hitting that ball down the left and then running into the left wall. Strange play.
6 serves 9.
These guys look so in sync when they're playing doubles together, but yet when they're playing singles,
Set out.
they're so in sync that they're in each other's way, seemingly on every rally.
9 serves 6. Over.
Not sure if I agree with that overcall from the referee. But I'm not here to judge.
9 serves 6. Short. Second serve. Shut out.
Andy Nett has been stuck on 9, Dave, for now 6 minutes. Luis is slowly working his way
6 serves
into this
9.
match.
Luis will put this away, but doesn't. Andy's able to retrieve. Andy's able to retrieve, calls 2 bounces on himself, and
Thank
Luis
you.
scores another point.
That was actually the second strike from Luis Moreno, Dave. And a lot of times, the second strike is set up by the first
7
strike
serves 9.
that maybe was just barely picked up, and then you have another opportunity and put that away.
Luis jumps over that shot from Andy Nett, scoops his next return.
And that's a shot Andy needs to be able to put away in the front court.
Both of these guys are retrievers. Andy gets that ball back, Dave.
Amazing.
I thought he was
pickup.
passed. Was out of the camera angle to see exactly how he did it.
Shut
Luis
out.
is unable to get that ball back.
Well, that was clearly, Dave, the best rally of the match so far. 33 shots, and Andy Nett ends it with that great pass down the
9
right
serves
wall.
7.
Hard to even pick a highlight from this rally because there were so many.
Short. Second serve.
This is game number 1 between the two world doubles champions, Andy Nett and Luis Moreno. There's Andy going down to the floor again. You and I were calculating. Andy leaves that one up high.
Hold it, hold it, hold it.
Is there any attempt there to get out of the way by Andy Nett, who leaves the ball way up off the left side wall? Has to give Luis a swing there.
9 serve 7.
I'm not sure if I even agree with the call
Short.
from the ref, but I guess you're thinking more of an avoidable. I'm thinking just letting the guys play through it. We've seen both. These referees
Second
do,
serve.
and we've done enough matches to see this. They all call a game just completely different than the way it seems that if you were a player, you'd want it to be called. And Dave, you can watch these games multiple times, and the same problems that occur while you're watching the live broadcast happens when you're actually in the court. The line judges are
7
terrible.
serves
The
9.
referee doesn't completely know the rules.
Short.
I used to think, Dave, that a line judge didn't need to be a top player,
Second
but I've
serve.
changed my mind. I don't think anyone in the gallery can actually see what's going on in this high-level play unless they themselves are a top player.
Well, I just don't think that standing to being in those positions that those players are in, the line judges are in, back in the gallery is actually the best spot. I would like to see one of the line judges actually on a video monitor watching a replay. I mean, if you're going to get the call right, might as well do it right. And the other one needs to be perched standing up on the back row so they can look down onto the court. And I would even suggest in a high profile, as we watch another long rally between Andy Nett and Luis Moreno here, I would even say that there could be 3 line judges. One that watches those strange ceiling ball bad bounces that we have on this court, and there are a lot on this court. These lights are not perfectly implanted into the roof here. There's a lot of bad bounces off the light fixtures. I've seen 3 times now players lift their hand on bad bounces on the ceiling and no call from the referee. Line judges aren't even looking for those things in the gallery. And TV probably wouldn't pick it up at all because we're not looking at the ceiling. But it seems like if a line judge was there just to look at the incidentals that take place, not necessarily just the short calls, but also all the other little things. This back wall is full of strange bad bounces. There's metal fixtures in the middle of a glass wall. There's metal at the top. There's a lot of creases where there's bad bounces. And we've also seen a lot of slides on this court over the history of these major championships and national championships as well. 9-7 with Andy Nett stuck at 9 for the last 15 minutes.
But he's managing to hold off a Luis Moreno run. They'll need to start scoring some points because although Luis isn't scoring many when he's in, he is slowly cutting the deficit.
Side out.
And another side out with Luis now going in. It's 7-9.
Luis pinches the corner there. Andy expecting a drive down the right. But looked like the ball was up, and you saw Andy take a quick glance at the referee. You won't see Andy complain, but
that was actually a complaint from Andy, and I'm surprised I didn't hear Elgato say you can forfeit him out of the tournament if he gets a technical.
So a technical, you can get a technical from not swearing, but having a conversation with the ref is a technical, which is also perhaps getting kicked out of the tournament?
Yeah, I guess.
Out.
Well,
7 serves 9.
7 serves 9.
Short. Second serve.
I wonder if you can get a technical without ever being. I wonder if you can get a technical without ever even, or excuse me, get kicked out of the tournament without even getting a technical.
Point. Timeout.
There's
Score 8 serving 9. First timeout.
Timeout called here. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Stay close at racefor8.com.
My name is Bruce Fabrizio. In 1975, I invented Simple Green based on 3 principles. It had to be safer to use, it had to work, and it had to be completely made in America. From generation to generation, Simple Green has been cleaning everything from car engines and tools to kitchen counters and floors. No matter what you clean, indoors or outdoors, clean it with non-toxic, biodegradable Simple Green.
Working and working out takes a lot of energy. That's why I drink Zenergy. Feeling fantastic and looking good has never been easier. Science, extreme science for your active lifestyle.
And we are back here after 60 seconds. Sandy Nett stepping back into the box here after finding himself on a wrong side of a 7-0 run from Luis Moreno.
Right.
Luis and Andy wore this exact same ensemble in their championship win, winning that world title just a couple weeks ago in Ireland.
Well, these guys, Dave, actually talked yesterday and said, look, just because we're playing each other doesn't mean we're not a team. Let's go out there in our red and black.
9 service 8.
So they color coordinate each other, which is great. That's bringing friendship to a whole different level, doubles partners. This could be the great doubles team of Steve Lott and Fred Lewis.
Actually, I compared them, Dave, to Jimmy Jacobs and Marty Decatur, who never lost a competitive match, and neither have Andy Nett and Luis Moreno. Now, if Michael Finnegan and Paul Brady can't give them a game, who can?
8 serves 9.
Dave?
Oh, over. Eight serves 9.
A lot of people, Dave, heading out to the big ball courts here. Luis just moves so well in the front court. His agility is absolutely amazing. And there's a shot, Dave, that you don't see very often. Andy with an overhand spike shot into the back wall.
Yeah, it's rare because the ball actually comes off the back wall spinning the wrong way.
But he hit it so hard that it made it.
It had to make it. Yeah, it's just a rare shot. You very rarely see that fish
Broken
shot
ball.
to the back wall. There's the
Gary.
third broken ball here out of, I guess, our 4 matches now. We saw one of every match except for the one that you played in, unless you had a broken ball in that match.
We didn't. You have to say, Dave, that the Alan Garner Sean Lenning match was one of the classic matches we've seen in some time. I mean, Sean Lenning made that unbelievable comeback to win the first game. I mean, Dave, it looked like he was out. In fact, Alan hit a couple of shots at 20-16 that looked like would have ended the game, and Sean somehow tracked them down. Sean comes back to win that game, gives the second game away. What did he score there, Dave? About 3 points? And,
yeah.
And then he comes back in the tiebreaker rejuvenated, and it's right down to the wire. Sean Lenning holds off Alan Garner 11-8. Just amazing handball. And it's so difficult, Dave, when you play against a guy that throws that second game, and mentally, you know, you start to think this is pretty easy, and then all of a sudden you get into the tiebreaker and the guy's got all this energy and adrenaline and power, and you're mentally kind of having to adjust after having won a game so easily. And that's, I think, might have been what happened with Alan Garner in the beginning of that tiebreaker. Just enough of an opening for Sean as he kind of carried that lead through.
Well, in talking to Alan Garner after that match, I said, you know, what? How'd you feel? What was going on? He goes, I feel great. I think I played good. And, you know, sort of downplaying, I thought he'd be depressed. You know, the Alan Garner that we saw in Kansas City when he just got in the truck and drove home. I thought we'd see that Alan Garner, but he said, no, you know, I'm making, it's, you know, I had to get my first tournament out of the way. It's been a long time for me. He said, I'm going to Tucson now. And it looks like he will bring his wife, Erica. And hopefully they, you know, we see an Alan Garner presence here in the race for 8 because he is a talented player. He was my sleeper pick that of the guys in the tournament. I think he's the one that I felt that could overtake Paul Brady, especially the way Paul Brady's been playing to start off. But then there's that Sean Lenning, who now looks like he's in a good position here.
If Sean is feeling good tomorrow, Dave, and his shoulder is feeling good, he's got a very good chance tomorrow against Paul. I believe, David, will come down to his fitness and how his body feels tomorrow.
Well, you can pretty much see from all of the players that the trip to Ireland affected them in some way, whether that's
9 serves
what we
8.
call handball hangover. When you come out of a handball tournament, you just sort of don't want to talk about it or play it for about 3 weeks until you kind of reset your body. But these players were complaining earlier that this is just too quick for us to want to come back and play again. And I think what that is from a competitor's level, when you really put your sights on something, it's very difficult to put your sights on the next target immediately
10 serves
afterwards, because you're still mourning the loss of your loss. You're still mourning the win of your win. It's a difficult situation. You're still wanting people to congratulate you. The ink is still drying on some of the trophies that you've won and some of the press that you're reading about yourself, and yet you're already in another competitive match. Look at that weird behind the legs shot from Andy Nett. He's a retriever, Dave. The difference between Andy Nett and these other players is that Andy can actually retrieve and then still put power on the ball. I can see why locally in Minnesota that Andy's so dominant.
Well, when you're the number 7 ranked pro in the world, generally you're pretty dominant locally.
Well, he's ranked number 8, but nonetheless,
I was
he's
actually
a difficult.
factoring the rankings in after this event.
Well,
Andy's already
Thursday.
climbed to number 7 now
Okay.
with Luis Cordova
Short.
losing points. There will be a
Second
big
serve.
shakeup, Dave, in the rankings, and those will be unveiled. Unveiled?
Unveiled.
Unveiled.
Yeah. The veal is actually
Veal.
is food.
Oh, so you eat baby deer then?
No,
Is that what
it's not a baby deer.
you-
Okay, so you've got everything wrong so
8
far.
serves 12.
It would
Please
be like
correct me.
a baby calf,
Oh,
like
okay.
a calf, not a deer.
Okay.
The deer meat would be a venison,
Mm.
not veal. You got the right V sound.
4. Hold it. Hold it.
I guess you can say venison veal if you really wanted to try to let somebody
Right.
know that it was a baby deer, but I
Right.
don't know anybody that would do that.
8 serves 12.
8 to 12. I'd love to just keep talking about this.
You just might.
Andy makes great shots, but Luis has got tremendous court coverage, Dave.
Well,
9 serves 12.
Luis right now is playing right into Andy's game. Luis is not shooting the ball, and Andy can run forever, track down virtually every pass shot that you hit. Andy will give you a lot of setups, and if you hit the bottom board, you can score points, but you're not going to put together big runs
Timeout.
without
Second
killing
timeout
the ball.
scores 10 serving 12.
Luis now playing like he did after he built that 13-2 lead against Paul Brady in the final, where he just started driving the ball rather than shooting it. Luis was outscored 40-16 in the remainder of that match after taking the 13-2 lead, and a lot of that had to do with Luis not shooting. And right now, Luis is very rarely shooting. You see there, Luis leaves a pass shot up off the back wall.
I think we're going to see Andy take one behind his back coming up here. It was actually between the legs and behind the back at the same time. That was just a long rally brought to you by Simple Green here at the U.S. Open of Handball. Andy Nett, now living in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, from Winona, Minnesota, up against Luis Moreno, who's from Hermosillo, Mexico, Sonora, and now living in Tucson, Arizona.
All right.
Both representing
10
the
serves 12.
R48 Pro WPH Elite team at the World Championships in Dublin, Ireland, now up against each other here. This is a lot like Paul Brady playing Mike Finnegan in the semifinals. Except
12
for
serves 10.
Andy Nett and Luis Moreno's friendship just started. Paul Brady and Mike kind of grew up together. That's an overhit from Andy Nett. Luis will make you pay every single time on overhit balls and mistakes.
I'm going to hold you to that.
10
And I
serves
now
12.
have my notebook out.
Wow. I'm surprised that shirt you're wearing has no pockets.
11 serves 12.
Now Andy's getting sloppy here.
Well, this is the point in the game where the favorite generally imposes himself, and the underdog tends to go away
12
just a
serves
little
12.
bit. amazing shot from Luis, and that was not a setup. That was a ball that was driven right at Luis's body with hop, and Luis fights it off and kills it in the right corner.
Score here 13-12 with Luis Moreno in the lead with that underhand paddle, now 14-12.
And this is, Dave, what Luis does so well. He camps out in the front court, and it just seems like you can't get him out of there. Now Luis locating his serve.
Point.
Remember, Andy did lead 9-2. Went 8.5 minutes without scoring, then took a 12-10 lead. But now Luis has scored 5 in a row and doesn't look like there's any sign of him stopping.
Well, Andy played around with Luis long enough to get Luis loose, and that's dangerous because Luis is going to go for shots like that. He misses it, but he won't miss it again.
Speaking of the rankings, Dave, I know we had just alluded to them briefly, but Alan Garner will be dropping out of the top 5 as he'll lose a semifinal finish from Plummer and
but he stays in the top 8.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
he's in the top 8.
Okay, so he'll get the invite to Tucson. In fact, you will be in charge here. If you see some of those guys that you know that will automatically be invited, go ahead and invite them.
Okay.
The Luis Morenos, the Sean Lennings, the Alan Garners, the Charlie Shanks. And then after that,
15 serves 12.
I think it is slightly up in the air. I know you said that Emmett Pachot is an automatic invite now because
Well, Luis Cordova would be, but he will not be coming. He can't make it with his
16 serves
schedule.
12.
So that opens the door for number 9, which is Chip Morales.
Second serve.
But Emmett climbs over Chip Morales by a quarterfinal finish here, and Chip not playing in the singles. So Emmett now becomes number 9, but then he'll move ahead also of Luis Cordova, who will not be attending next week. And Dave, we are not sure, but it looks like Nadi Alvarado Jr. also will not be attending next week. He says he's very doubtful. He does have, I believe, about 4 more days to commit to that event. Dave, I'm not sure exactly the time frame, but I believe it's a week before. I thought it might have been 2 weeks before.
it is actually 2 weeks before, so they will have to commit
So based on this
Today.
tournament being so close.
today.
Okay.
Today has to be you have to commit today for Tucson for the top 8 players, and if they don't, they're unsure of themselves, then here's the thing, that if they commit today and then they uncommit, then they're penalized for the next stop afterwards, not allowed to play in the next stop. And that's
Wow.
part of the rules.
Wow.
And they just need to know that.
Now, what if a guy, Dave, like Nadi Alvarado Jr., declines his invitation today, but a week from now decides, I want to play? Can he then enter the qualifier?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But that's sort of a penalty. But yeah, you're right.
No, that's not a penalty.
No, it's sort of a penalty.
He won't get his incentive money.
Right, but
he can't enter that qualifier.
Yeah, and I would say it's a penalty only in the sense that you now have extra rounds of play where you could
Well,
have
he's
just
penalizing himself.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a penalty. Not necessarily enforced by us, but adhered to by him. But yeah, you absolutely could.
Okay. Because I believe the deadline for the qualifier isn't until about 2
Right.
days before the event.
Right. It's
So
semantics, but it is what it is. Because you have to be able to promote the top 8, and you can't do that as you put the players on hold.
Well, and also players have to be able to make flights. They don't have to be there until Friday if they're in the top 8. If they're not in the top 8, they have to be there on Wednesday night.
Bad bounce.
There's a bad bounce off that corner molding there with our referee now stepping into, our security guard
17 serves 12.
coming in.
Alan Garner, Dave, might have had the shortest retirement
Point.
in the history of sports. I mean, we've seen some short retirements,
18
but
serves 12.
Alan Garner has only missed 1 tournament. So I guess that's retirement. I mean, I guess he's making an amazing comeback today by almost defeating
19 serves 12.
the 4th seed Sean Lenning here.
Luis Moreno on a 17-3 run right now against his doubles friend. Big setup for Andy Nett there. He powers
Is Luis too close to Andy there, Dave?
Yes.
Okay.
But the referee's not going to call it, and Luis is not going to move until the ref does. And even if he does say something, Luis is still going to stay there.
12
That's
serves 19.
one of the disruptive things that Luis does that does get under your skin as a player. I thought that ball flat rolled, but that one did.
Point.
And that's sort of what Luis does. He gets really close to you. He says
13
that
serves 19.
in practice, I said, to him, you stand really close. He goes, you don't own that. You go, okay, I guess you,
I mean,
you
can't
don't own
argue
it.
that.
You don't own it. I go, you're right, I don't.
Out.
So next time it happened, I just hit him as hard as I could, can him in the back, and he said, say you're sorry. And I said, I
19
don't.
serves 13.
You don't own that spot. I was actually going to the front wall. I'm saying sorry to the front wall because that's
I call the
who
ball
I
short.
let down here.
I called it short. One agrees, both agree.
So when you hit him in the back, was that with the ball or with the
Second
follow-through fist?
No, just with the ball. I turned around left-handed on purpose because he was
Okay.
off to the side a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you don't own that spot.
I don't know if there's a spot on my body that I didn't get hit in today with
saw
the
that.
ball.
Luis puts that down, takes that extra point here. Now at 20-13, he's sort of like a baseball player that starts walking to first base when there's only 3
20
balls.
serves 13.
Luis thought he won that first game with that kill shot. It was just a side out and a point.
Short. Second serve.
Wow, that was a really good serve. This should be put away. Andy Nett hurt himself here.
Game.
Andy Nett might have broke a finger.
Well, it was a back wall shot, and maybe he hurt his wrist. Looks like he's
Side out.
pointing his finger.
It's going to be a side out. There's going to be an
Your
avoidable hinder
serve.
called here. Andy Nett smacked his finger into Luis Moreno on the
Okay.
follow through. And the referee's now going to give a point, side out, excuse me. You see, I thought that Andy broke his hand here. The follow through, this is what I'm talking about, right there.
Okay, Andy jams his finger there, Dave, and that is very, very painful. It's one of those injuries that seems like you should be able to shrug off, but don't forget, Dave, we're just using our hands here. So if you have an injured digit, that is
13 serves 20.
a huge disadvantage because every shot you're trying to change your swing, the ball's rolling through your hand differently because you're flinching
Short.
with the pain, and that's what happens on your serve is you hit a lot of short serves because the ball
Second
doesn't
serve.
roll through your hand the way that you're used to having
Right.
it roll through your hand.
Well, that goes exactly with what we were talking about, how close Luis Moreno plays. You were saying, did I follow through and hit him? Well, Andy Nett, 10 shots later, did.
And Andy now is really struggling, Dave, with his right hand. I have had a number of jam fingers, and it's just very difficult, particularly when you just jam it
20 serves 13.
to have confidence in your swing because every shot hits that finger.
And there it is, 21-13. Now Luis is going to say sorry about that, hitting me in the follow-through
We'll
shot
see if
right
they
there.
still wear matching outfits, Dave,
Yeah,
in the
well,
second game after that unfortunate.
Andy Nett might be looking for another doubles partner here. We're going to take a timeout. We have game number 2 right around the corner for Dave Fink. My name is Dave Vincent. More of the Race for 8 action at the Simple Green U.S. Open of Handball coming up next. Stick here.
My name is Bruce Fabrizio. In 1975, I invented Simple Green based on 3 principles. It had to be safer to use, it had to work, and it had to be completely made in America. From generation to generation, Simple Green has been cleaning everything from car engines and tools to kitchen counters and floors. No matter what you clean, indoors or outdoors, clean it with non-toxic, biodegradable Simple Green.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Working and working out takes a lot of energy. That's why I drink Zenergy. Feeling fantastic and looking good has never been easier. Science, extreme science for your active lifestyle.
At shelters, you'll discover healthy and loving animals just waiting to become a part of your family. Why wait? You can make a difference in the life of an animal. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person and adopt your new best friend today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Here we go. We're gonna make some juice.
It's gonna be good.
She's excited. A little bit of kale.
Please don't put this on
I'm putting it all over the line.
It's wet. It needs something. No, it'll go.
Don't break my juicer. Looks good.
You ready to try it?
Come on, baby.
Challenge your kids to be active and eat healthy.
It's okay.
Okay, all right.
They might surprise you.
Hey, she took another sip. You saw it?
Search We Can for more ideas on how you and your kids can get healthy together.
Are you getting this, honey?
Oh, prime time. We are rolling.
All right, Mama's gonna bring it home. Mama's gonna bring it home. Okay.
Come on, watch this guy.
Oh, backwards.
Oh, don't. Oh.
It went into Bob and Carol's yard. Oh, no? Okay,
Yeah.
here it comes.
Oh, Mom!
Challenge your kids to be active and eat healthy.
All right, let's see what you can do. All right, let's go.
They might surprise you.
Let's go.
Search We Can for more ideas on how you and your kids can get healthy together.
My name is Bruce Fabrizio. In 1975, I invented Simple Green based on 3 principles. It had to be safer to use, it had to work, and it had to be completely made in America. From generation to generation, Simple Green has been cleaning everything from car engines and tools to kitchen counters and floors. No matter what you clean, indoors or outdoors, clean it with non-toxic, biodegradable Simple Green.
Rethink what you know about this Vegas icon. Elevate your expectations at the Stratosphere Hotel, Casino, and Tower. See what's new, up, down, and all around.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's 1 every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
Working and working out takes a lot of energy. That's why I drink Zenergy. Feeling fantastic and looking good has never been easier. Science, extreme science for your active lifestyle.
Zero, zero.
And we are back for game number 2 here, 0-0, the WPH Race for 8-2 season and Simple Green U.S. Open of Handball as Luis Moreno wins the first one. Now going after Andy Nett here in game number 2, 1-0. Referee is Luis Cordova. My name is Dave Vincent. We're at the Los Caballeros Sports Village, Fountain Valley, California.
2-0. Point. 3-0.
Now, Dave, I hate to be a stickler, but if you were to call someone on the phone, would you say, "And this is David Vincent," or would you say, "This is Dave Vincent"? If someone knocked on your door, would you say, "And thanks for coming to my house"?
If somebody
4-0.
Go ahead.
Was already on the phone with me, and they said, "We would like to get to talk to that guy named Dave Vincent," I would say, "And this is Dave Vincent."
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, if they were already introduced earlier to Dave Vincent on the phone, and Dave Vincent just put the phone down and picked it back up again, and this is Dave Vincent, that's how I would look at it.
So sometimes you put the phone down, you go away, leave them on hold,
Well,
and come back?
the phone is still there operating. So in that sense, yes, and is appropriate because we've already introduced ourselves, but then there was a little break where they thought Dave Vincent left.
Okay.
Cooking some food in the microwave or something. It's good to know that only 2 people in this whole world know what we're talking about out of the 4 viewers.
0-5.
We're at 0-5 now with Andy Nett.
But actually,
trailing.
Dave, you taught me yesterday that who cares about numbers? Really. We're doing our thing. If 4 people want to watch or 4 million, what's the difference? We're going to do our thing regardless. We're going to do as good as we can. Some people might think it's good. Some people might not. But
2 people might think it's good. 2 people might not. And I'm counting the crew members in the actual band as part of the 4. And I'm being generous.
Well, those guys are actually about the easiest in the business to get a laugh from. So I know you love them.
Well, when picking the crew, we had to find people that laughed at my jokes. Both of these players trading terrible shots until Andy puts one away down the right wall. Now there's a side out.
One serves 5.
Score here 1-5.
I just had an opportunity between games, Dave, to talk to Taylor Dent, who's kind of an unknown underground former top 15 ATP tennis pro.
Wasn't
just retired.
Taylor Dent the bad guy in the last Batman film?
Taylor Dent actually recorded the 2nd fastest serve in the history of men's tennis at 149 miles per hour. Saw him play Rafael Nadal in Cincinnati.
I know, since you remember everything, what were the scores in that?
6-2, 5. Well, it was Nadal won 6-2, 7-5. Taylor Dent actually was up a break in the 2nd set there. Squandered that break and then got broken to lose the match at 6-5.
3 serves 5.
I believe, Dave, that I'll be playing the loser of this match tomorrow in the 5th place playoffs. So that'll be at least an easy bounce back win for them.
I call the ball short. I call it short.
That's what I'm here to do.
2nd serve.
There's a lot of people commenting on the difference between the live coverage here of this match and the games that we're broadcasting in Los Cab versus the World Championships. And to clarify, the World Championships had probably the fastest internet we've ever seen with 60 up. If you're in the business, you know what that means. It's truly remarkable speeds. But the cameras there were not in high definition. Here we may have 10, 15 up. actually 1.8 up, which is lousy.
3 serves
See,
5.
when you're talking up, something you're talking about Andy Nett's vertical leap.
Yeah, I mean, but people in the business, I think there's only 4. Hopefully one of the 4 are actually in the business. 1.8 is terrible, but we're in high definition here with our camera, so that's why it might seem to be a little bit more clear. Also, the side walls at the World Championships were so dark, and the front wall was also kind of an off color, that it was very difficult to see the ball on camera. So for those that are emailing and texting, watching this match here as Andy Nett's now scored 5 unanswered points, are complimenting this clear feed that we're getting, and that's part of the reason.
5 serves 5.
So what you're saying is that there's 8 people watching, not 4. I'd like to get the facts straight here.
No, I still believe it's 4.
Oh, okay.
I'm still talking about the same 4. Don't add them together.
Okay.
Score here is 6-5.
So what you're saying is there's 4 people total around the world watching this right now.
There's 6 now.
Oh, 6.
Yeah, 7.
Oh, so you count people in the booth now?
Yes.
Wow.
If they're actually watching on the monitor, I'm counting you and I as 2.
And there's another avoidable hinder from Luis Moreno. His 12th of this game that has not been called.
7 serves 5.
He's right on pace, Dave, to get to 21, which is what he had in last game. And the play now, Dave, really sloppy. Andy Nett has the scoops. Luis Moreno is just banging the front wall, but that time puts a huge wrinkle on it.
Eight serves 5. Point. Nine serves 5. Short.
You see Luis Moreno now at
Second serve.
9-5. Second serve, game number 2.
I just offered Emmett Pashot, Dave, a top 8 ranking and the incentive money, but he has to confirm that on the headphones, otherwise he doesn't get it. So apparently he'll be entering the qualifier despite being ranked in the top 8 for the next tournament. And I believe, Dave, that $500 goes to you and I's fund to New Zealand.
Now, after you made the announcement that you were retiring from handball, this fund is handball related, so sorry, I now get to bring my wife, you get to stay home. So, but I do agree, it does go to the fund, but this is a handball event that you've now retired from, and you did make that official with the headset on, so.
Well, I actually said that would be after Tucson, so I don't even get a portion of that fund since it was a fourth of the way through the race season.
Sorry.
Well, I'm happy to help you out then, and I hope you and Lolita have a wonderful trip.
It's all semantics. We're in the middle of a timeout here as Luis wins the first game. Andy Nett has had his moments so far in this match. He was tied with Luis Moreno at 5 here, but also leading in the first game before completely unraveling.
Well, you have to wonder how much that jam finger is bothering him now. His right hand just has not had the snap that we saw early in this match.
10 serves 5.
Score is 10-5 now, with now Luis Moreno scoring that real quick point. This game was actually, this match was supposed to start at 12:30. The court was open at 12:20. They didn't even get the first pitch off until 12:45. No referee, no Andy Nett. Don't know exactly where Andy was at, but Luis Moreno did what he always does, and that is warm up for like 45 minutes before every match. The new Luis Moreno, not the old one.
The old Luis would sleep for 3 hours.
You'd have to go
not
wake
hit
him
a
up.
ball.
Yeah.
13 serves 5.
That's true.
Point.
And now, Dave, Andy Nett with no momentum whatsoever, completely flat.
14 serves 5.
After taking that 12-10 lead in the first game, has just been unable to really generate any kind of offense. Luis makes a mistake on that serve.
5 serves 14.
We've had some people actually contact us here, Dave, and say that back home they're watching the live broadcast, but they've got, look at that amazing get from Andy Nett with the left hand. But they've got multiple people watching on their computers, so they want us to refigure our stats. I think the last email I have, we're up to 8.
Okay.
My wife just looked in, make it 9.
Six serves 14.
You know, Dave, during the sitcoms and other big shows, they actually have a peak rating. I believe, Dave, we've now peaked at 11, as we've had at one time, Dave, 6 sets of eyes peering in on our monitor, along with the 5 watching at home.
Hoping that Alan Garner will come over and look at the monitor for a quick second so we can get up to 12.
This also, Dave, will give me an opportunity to offer another invitation, which apparently is also declined from Alan Garner. Does not want the top 8 invitation or the $500 travel money. That's now $1,000 in the fund.
Wow,
Dave, for you and Lolita. And actually, you won't be going to New Zealand now. It'll be probably your wife's choice.
No, I think we're going to get to a point where I'm going to have to accept the invite. That's how bad it is.
Hold it.
And I'll have to actually decline that trip because they're set to be at the same time.
Okay.
So
15 serves 6.
that's frustrating.
So Alan Garner and Emmett can still enter the qualifier, though, I believe. I believe we'll have Abraham Montijo, Dave,
16 serves 6.
as an invited pro there. Alan Garner could face him in the first round if he qualifies in Tucson.
Six serves 16.
Andy Nett hitting that ball really hard right there.
That was actually 89 miles per hour, Dave. That's the hardest ball he's hit since 7-2 in the first game when he cranked a serve at 92. Hardest hit ball in this event. I want to thank Gene Casimoto Kastner.
That was hard for you to say, wasn't it?
That's a tongue twister. Don't say it 5 times fast. But she is providing the radar gun readings, Dave, as well as other various statistics.
She gave me a slip of paper. It was a great stat that said Dave Fink is a loser.
6 serves 16.
That was one of the best stats she's ever kept. I actually agreed with that too. It wasn't a subjective thing.
It was sort of like comparing the looks of wives that you've been doing here in the booth all day. Not subjective, just factual.
Lies, you said?
Well, you said comparing.
Oh,
facts.
comparing wives. I just didn't like the way you worded that. This is still a family program.
6 serves 16.
Good person. 6-16. Andy Nett getting away from the ground and pound, and I think maybe that has to do with that snap finger of his. Going up top, maybe just changing pace here.
And Andy goes to the pre-knee slide.
I like that camera angle down low with Andy scoring another point. Look at that angle. That's called bottom board.
I like that angle. In fact, Dave, I think we're going to go to that angle for the remainder of this second game. And we're going to have our...
No?
No?
No.
I believe we will.
I don't think so. Don't think it'll happen.
And Andy Nett with a swing and a miss there, Dave. Can't really blame the court here, as we don't have all the glass that we did in Ireland.
I love that angle, especially when a guy like Andy has to dive on the serve and he goes around the revolving door and throws the ball back. He's unconventional, but he gets every ball that's hit.
What in the Emmett Peixoto is going on here?
Well,
Andy Nett flying all over the court and keeping these rallies alive.
That has to be disruptive when you're a top player like Luis Moreno and you kind of want to get in and get out. And then you've got a taller version of Emmett Peixoto, kind of slightly better looking.
Slightly.
What?
Oh, and Luis goes to the big ball splat. Dave, I saw it coming, but for some reason Andy didn't. Andy was completely frozen there.
Well, they don't play big ball in
16,
Eden Prairie,
7.
Minnesota. So
Andy recently, Dave, won the state championship in the top division of 5-on-5 basketball. Andy Nett was named the MVP of his team and also the MVP of the entire league.
7 serve 16.
They actually played that championship, Dave, in the Target Center.
was that before the slam dunk contest or
Well, the slam dunk contest
at
was-
halftime?
Well,
Eight
it
serve
was
16.
actually, Dave, in between the semifinals and finals. Andy wanted to rest, but he was convinced by his
Well, he
teammates.
has sponsors. You know, when you have sponsors, you sometimes have to put yourself out. It's kind of frustrating.
Well, word had traveled,
But here's-
Dave, through Minnesota that he actually is able to dunk over his girlfriend, Bailey Chandler. Andy said, you know, I've done it. I don't want to do it
Eight
again.
serve 16.
He was talked into it, and he actually took off from just after the free throw line, jumped over Bailey, and threw down a windmill two-handed
Well, Andy's
dunk.
he's normally been working with another female cheerleader that he's been doing that trick with on the road, but he said that he wanted to give her, and I'm quoting, some FaceTime with some of the camera people there at the Target Center. But oddly enough, just a
9
few
serve
days
16.
before this, Andy won first place in a beauty contest.
Point.
You don't see too many males enter those. It was an all-female event, but he still took first.
Point. 10 serve 16.
I know a lot of people think that we're fibbing here, but that's not a lie.
Was that actually a pageant type of competition?
Yeah, it was actually a beauty contest. And he took first place. He was the only guy to enter out of 250 women who entered. Just a good-looking guy.
I knew there was a reason
16
Andy
serves
looked so
10.
good without his shirt on.
16 to 10.
Point.
All fooled on that strange hook from Luis Moreno. Puts so much wrinkle on the ball.
17 serves 10.
Even when it hits a sidewall first, it just does strange things. And
Point.
now you're seeing Luis just roll points and put him on the scoreboard here.
18 serves 10.
It must be intimidating. You saw Luis Moreno looking at Paul Brady in the World Championship Finals when he would deem back and kind of give him that stare. Luis said he
Timeout.
can't do that with Andy. He's so
Score is
good looking.
19, serving
I can't
10.
look back and stare this guy down. He's just too good looking.
Well, Luis himself, Dave, was offered a full-time modeling contract, but he would have had to travel throughout Europe and also some through Asia. And he said, look, you know, there'll be time for that, but right now I'm trying to take over the #1 spot in the world of handball. I just recently won the world championship in doubles. And Dave, that shows you what this game means to him as he turned down, Dave, a guaranteed $250,000 signing bonus, as well as a salary that would have paid him to travel the world. And all you'd have to do, Dave, is put on a shirt, blazers, or whatever it is that he'd be wearing.
And unfortunately there we saw that scene of a guy that can hear everything that we're
19
saying.
serves 10.
Alan Garner, the blonde bombshell.
Yeah.
He's sitting in the first row, just envious of this talk about the two guys that won the Fan Choice Awards of the World Championships with that 67.8% vote, as you recall.
I do. I actually voted.
Match point serves 10.
I'm sure Alan would have stolen some of those votes if he was there. The big setup for Andy. Pushes it back. Luis is able to somehow get his hand on it. And then Andy puts the ball down. I hope I haven't been saying Alan the whole time, but I think I have been.
10 serves 20.
We're at 10 to 20 here with Andy Nett scoring 13 in the first game.
Terrible serve there from Andy. And Luis breaks over the top of that ball just enough to run down the left side wall. And I think you'll see Luis go with a big
serves
hop
10.
to the left here, away from Andy, trying to end this game. And he gets it, Dave. Finishes the game with an ace, and Luis Moreno pushed early, Dave, trailed 9-2 and then 12-10 before taking command
Andy.
here and
Andy.
booking his
Have the
spot
ball.
in the semifinals. He'll face Charlie Shanks, Dave, a guy who's beat him the last 2 times they played on this court with this ball. Remember, at the USHA Four-Wall Nationals, beat them 21-19, 21-10. And at the Simple Green US Open last year, defeated Luis 11-9 in the tiebreaker. So Luis will be out for revenge. He did beat him in Seattle in 2 games. And Dave, in the other semifinal, it'll be Paul Brady taking on Sean Lenning.
Those matches will kick off tomorrow here on the live broadcast. 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. In the morning, it will be Brady versus Lenny, and then right afterwards at 9:30, the second semifinal match that you mentioned earlier with Shanks versus Moreno. And that'll be 4 o'clock in Ireland and 5:30 p.m. as well in Ireland. That'll be tomorrow here at racefor8.com. Though now we're going to switch and go over to the women's pro singles semifinals with Megan Mihalis up against Courtney Pachot, and then we'll see Ashleen Riley, our current world champion, battle it out against Tracy Davis. That's going to conclude this broadcast and this match, but we'll be back in about 15 minutes or so. Stay close. More action here at racefor8.com.
My name is Bruce Fabrizio. In 1975, I invented Simple Green based on 3 principles. It had to be safer to use, it had to work, and it had to be completely made in America. From generation to generation, Simple Green has been cleaning everything from car engines and tools to kitchen counters and floors. No matter what you clean, indoors or outdoors, clean it with non-toxic, biodegradable Simple Green.
Are you getting this, honey?
Oh, prime time. We are rolling.
All right, Mama's gonna bring it home. Mama's gonna bring it home. Okay.
Come on, watch this guy.
Oh, backwards.
Oh, don't. Oh.
It went into Bob and Carol's yard. Oh, no? Okay, here it comes.
Oh, Mom!
Challenge your kids to be active and eat healthy.
All right, let's see what you can do. Let's go.
They might surprise you. Search We Can for more ideas on how you and your kids can get healthy together.
Working and working out takes a lot of energy. That's why I drink Zenergy. Feeling fantastic and looking good has never been easier. Science, extreme science for your active lifestyle.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting. So why would you do it while driving? Leave risky driving to the professionals. Stop the texts, and together we can stop the wrecks.